Hello. Welcome to the nonprofit world, where we highlight organizations and individuals passionate about empowering the community and empowering people. We like to make difference to people's lives, and we serve our community and around the world. Today, I have a guest with me, and her name is Paula Sorrells-Beene. She has been the host of this program for many, many years, and I'm glad to have her here to be interviewed and to talk to us a little bit about herself and also about the world that she lives in and the book that she's written, in fact, or that she's writing.
I'm writing, yes.
So welcome.
Thank you.
I forgot to say that my name is Leslie DeMogle, and I'm very glad to have you here today.
Thank you. It's very interesting to be on this side of the interview.
Yes. So, well, that's wonderful. But I wanted to ask you some questions about the show. What have you enjoyed the most about doing this show?
Wow, this has been such an incredible opportunity for me, and I've just enjoyed it so much, and working with Sarah and working with the folks here at Nutmeg TV. I think, you know, the first time, as you and I were talking a little bit earlier, the first time that I came in to interview, to be a guest host, I was really nervous and a little anxious about interviewing. Didn't really know what to do or what to expect, but I had a wonderful two people that were here, and they helped me be at ease, but I also helped them be at ease. And so it was just it was a lot of fun. I've enjoyed every moment, every interview that I've had, every organization that we've talked to, and been able to put word out there for other people to see what these nonprofits are doing out in this community, and the people that are behind those nonprofits, and how they're encouraging others to come in and volunteer, and how they're encouraging others to be a part of those nonprofits. So overall, it's just been a fabulous experience, and I do hope that at some point I can come back again, but things are, in my life are turning in a little different direction right now, and I need to focus on those things at this point.
So you're going to be moving out of the community pretty soon.
We are going to be at some point. We don't really have a date right now, but you know, and even though we've only lived in our home for 10, 11 years, we've accumulated quite a lot.
Yeah, that's always the case.
And we need to get rid of some things.
Yes.
So since my husband has a full-time job, I'm the one that's kind of in charge of getting the house ready, so that when we do make that final decision to move, then we'll be ready to do that. So there's a lot to do between now and then. And so I've just got to focus my time and energy on that.
So how long have you been doing this show?
Actually, only about 1.5 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was very interesting. A friend of mine called one day and said that Sarah needed someone to come in and interview. I've done a lot of speaking in the past, and do some teaching through my church and in other areas. So I thought, well, okay, this sounds like a lot of fun. I'll give that a try.
Now, when you go to Texas, will you be probably doing a similar show at another station out in Texas?
I would like to. And I've actually mentioned it to Sarah. We haven't talked in depth about that, but I would like to do something either with the nonprofit world or along the same lines as what Sarah does with the nonprofit world. I think it's important. I think it's very important that we highlight those organizations that are truly, as you said in the opening, that are truly making a difference in the lives of others. Not only to highlight the organization itself and what they do, but also to highlight the individuals that volunteer, that step up, give their time freely, and because they want to, because they have a passion about whatever it is that that particular organization is doing. So yes, I do hope that when I get back to Texas that we can set something up either with a local TV station there, or when we move back, we're hoping to move back to a college town. So I'm sure they have some things both through the university as well as in the town itself.
What have you enjoyed the most about doing this show?
I think just meeting some of the really fine people that head up organizations, mostly executive directors or development, managers of development, directors of development, directors of communication. So I've just enjoyed meeting them and visiting with them. Oftentimes I would call them on the phone ahead of time to just talk about what we were going to discuss while we were on the program. So just having that opportunity to get to know some of the individuals that pour their lives into these nonprofits that are in our community here.
Now, of all the programs that you've had, are there any programs particularly that you have enjoyed the most?
Wow, that is a really good question because there have been a lot of good ones. One that I enjoyed the most, I enjoyed interviewing Susan Sadecki with the Main Street Community Foundation. Really enjoyed meeting her. And forgive me here because I'm not going to be able to remember all the names, but interviewed the executive director for the Boys and Girls Club of Bristol, the Clock Museum that's in Bristol also. Again, I'm sorry I don't remember the individual's name, but those, and then Scott Scala, I've interviewed him a couple of times, and then just other individuals. It's just been wonderful. And I think, honestly, my interview with you was probably one of my favorites as well, because we covered a lot of territory in that interview. So that was really
now we have the turning of the table.
That's right.
You interviewed me a couple of weeks ago, and now it's my turn to do it for you.
That's right. Here we are.
So I hope I can do it as well as you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Now, what do you think is the most important to communicate through a show like this to a community like Farmington or any other community? What are some of the specific things that you tried to do in communicating with the various communities that you think are important?
Well, you mean as far as the nonprofits
are
concerned?
Yeah.
I think it's important that that word gets out about the nonprofits and what they do, and how people can get involved. Because I know, there are a lot of people out there. Like I serve on a board of an organization, and I've been involved, certainly do a lot of volunteer things at my church, and but I think it's important that people know what organizations are out there and how they can get involved in those organizations. And I think one of the most interesting things, just being here and as a host on the nonprofit world, is knowing and learning about a lot of these different organizations, because there's so many that I didn't have any idea that, number one, that they even existed, or what they do in the community. And then, of course, there are some that go way beyond this community to other countries. So there's just so much that people can get involved with. Right. But it's nice to, I think what this program does is it does truly highlight those organizations, and then people can say, hey, that sounds really interesting to me. I'd like to be a part of that. I'd like to get involved in that organization.
Now, you mentioned that you've been a member of several of these organizations. Can you talk a little bit about some of them? You've been board member, right?
Well, I'm currently a board member for the ABC Women's Center.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
In Middletown, Connecticut. It is a center that focuses on helping women and their significant other, their spouse, or in some cases their boyfriend. When a woman finds herself pregnant, she wants a place to go where she can get some help. And that's what the ABC Women's Center does, is they help these women in, number one, we do pregnancy tests if someone needs to find out if they are pregnant. We'll offer ultrasounds so that they can see how far along the baby is. And then we support them if they need and if they want. We support them for the first 2 years of that baby's life. Oh. So if they choose to take that baby full term, then we'll help them. We provide them with just any number of things, including diapers, clothing, car seats, bassinets. It all depends on what the needs are. So.
Now, are these mostly single mothers?
I should know the statistics of that, but probably a little bit of both. A lot of them, I think, initially when they come in, they are single mothers, but we do have some that are married that come in.
Now, are these mostly people from Connecticut who live in the area, or are they people coming in from the outside, from other states?
Yes, mostly people in Connecticut.
In Connecticut.
Yeah.
Now, who finances the organization? I mean, do you get the funds mostly from the public or from foundations?
Individuals, churches, and businesses. Yeah, no state support whatsoever, no government support whatsoever.
Yeah. No, but when you say you help them, do you provide housing for them?
No housing, but we will support them as far as their child, and give them guidance. We have client advocates, is what we call them, and they will sit with them. They will walk them through various things. We have videos available. We have books available. They can come in at any time and just ask for guidance. So.
Yeah. Is there an income requirement for this? I mean, do they have to be?
Absolutely not. And there's no fee to them whatsoever. They are not charged a single dime.
Now, do you also provide medical assistance as well for them?
We're not a clinic.
Okay.
We're not a medical facility. We do have a doctor, a medical doctor that is a part of our team. We also have a full-time nurse that is available, I don't know how many days, 3 to 4 days a week. She is there. And then we also have volunteer nurses that are available as well. And we have a sonographer, and then we have our other volunteers.
Yeah. So it's mostly a support group more than anything else.
We are definitely there to support those moms through that pregnancy.
Now, what if they have husbands? Do you provide jobs for the husband? Do you also look for jobs for them?
We don't provide jobs. We might, and we don't. We're not there to support them in that particular area, but but we do offer counseling and just things that they would need for that baby.
And then after the baby is born, you continue to work with them.
We do, absolutely. And
is there a certain age at which you stop, or?
Well, we normally say we provide assistance to them through the first 2 years, but I don't know that anybody has come back after those first 2 years for assistance.
Which is a success. So.
Yes, right. Yeah, the success stories are wonderful, and we do have some. We do have it online. I don't even know what the website is, but I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But yeah, it's a wonderful program. It is the ABC Women's Center in Middletown, and so you can look that up, or our viewers can look that up online. ABC Women's Center.
.org.
Yes, or .com.
Right. No, it would be org probably.
Yeah, probably.
Most likely.
Yeah. So.
And I understand also that you've been on the board of Faith Care. Could you tell us about that?
Well, I actually was not on the board at Faith Care. I started out, it's kind of an interesting story, and it goes back to when I first moved to Connecticut. My cousin met the current, I don't know if it was executive director, or not president, but executive director of the organization, met him at a meeting in Chicago. And so my cousin called me, my cousin who lives in Arkansas, called me to tell me that he had met this man with this organization and was telling me about the church that this man attended. And so I got interested because I was an executive director of a nonprofit in Texas prior to moving up here. So I contacted them, just got connected with them, and that was back in 2005. And then probably around 2010, and even prior to that, I did a little bit of volunteer work for Faith Care. And then in 2010, I began to do some more volunteer work for them. And the executive director at that time was leaving the organization, and she recommended that I apply to be the executive director. So I became the executive director of Faith Care in January of 2011. Huh. And loved it. It's just a wonderful organization. They do a lot of great things. They do a lot of things locally. It's a medical organization that brings health, hope, and healing to and through the medical community. So they want to be able to bring the medical community together locally and support them and help them to grow in their faith, and also to do some outreach, community outreach. But then in addition to that, they go to countries outside of the United States, primarily Haiti, Nigeria, Dominican Republic, and maybe others at this point. But those
So
were
the
ones.
doctors are the ones who go to these various hospitals in these different countries.
Yeah, doctors, nurses. We just had, just a lot. PAs, APRNs, pediatricians, just you name it, pharmacists, just a dentist, group of doctors and nurses and medical people, but then also non-medical individuals that go from churches that get involved, and they go and they'll pray for the people if the people are asking for prayer, and certainly be praying for the whole trip and for everything that's going on there. But it's amazing. It's amazing all the work that they do and all the surgeries that they perform, and they set up, if they don't have a facility to work in, they will set up a facility, and they provide these services for people who come from miles and miles away.
So how do you make the contacts between your organization, Faith Care, and the hospitals and the various clinics in these other parts of the world?
Dr. Schnatz, who's the founder of the organization, does most of that, has set most of that up. But we also work with a church here, well, it's not a church, an organization here, and do some things with the Kateri Medical Center in Nigeria. And so, we just work with whoever is, in charge of that particular area.
So you actually either work with the hospitals directly or with an organization in those countries that can put you in touch with the various clinics and hospitals.
Well, we don't always work in a clinic or a hospital.
I see.
Sometimes they set it up, they set up in an area that, excuse me, doesn't have a hospital or a clinic, and they set up and serve the people in that community. And again, all of those services are free.
Right,
there's no charge to the people that are coming.
So how many doctors are involved and nurses involved in this? At one point, at one time, how many of them go to the Dominican Republic or to Nigeria or to Haiti?
It just all varies, honestly. It could be anywhere from 10 or 12 to 25 or or 30.
And how long do they usually stay?
They
in these
usually go a
countries?
week to 2 weeks, depending
okay.
on where they're going. Now, in Nigeria, they work with Kateri Medical Clinic, and that is a year-round clinic. So when they go, they serve for the 2 weeks that they're there. But you know, in some of the other places, again, they just set up remotely, and they go in and they provide just amazing services and surgeries.
Now, how do you recruit the doctors and the nurses?
A lot of that's done through Dr. Snatz and just through the organization. There are a lot of volunteers in Hartford, for example. Dr. Snatz began in this community, in the Hartford community, but he now lives in Pennsylvania. So there are doctors and nurses still here that are still actively involved, and they just pull from their resources, and you know, they get the word out.
Now, how many people do they serve, do you think, in each of these countries?
Oh gosh, I mean, hundreds of thousands overall. I mean, you know, in a week's time, you know, it could be several thousand that they serve in just a very short period of time. So.
Well, that's very good.
Yeah.
And it's called Faith Care.
Faith Care.
And they are, where is the headquarters?
They're located in Hartford.
In Hartford. Very good. Now, if anyone wanted to make contribution to Faith Care, do you have an address or where they could send the information?
I don't.
Or if someone would like to volunteer to work with Faith Care?
Yeah, they could probably just go online and look up Faith Care. Just type in Faith Care. It's one word, but yeah, just type in Faith Care in Hartford, Connecticut, and they would be able to find the website for that. And Vinton Forbes is the current executive director. He's doing a fabulous job. He's been there, I want to say, since 2013. So yeah, he's doing a great job.
That's very good. Yeah. Now, for the trips, do you arrange all the trips so that everyone would travel together?
In most cases, yes.
Now, you don't have several programs in different countries simultaneously. In other words, one year, at one trip, people will go to Nigeria. The year after, then they'll go to Haiti or the Dominican Republic. No,
they go to those places every year, and so they go to Haiti at least when I was there. And this is, you know, we're talking about 2012, 2013, so it's been a while. They went to Haiti in February for a couple of weeks, and then Nigeria. I think they make 2 to 3, maybe even 4 trips a year to Nigeria. So.
But you usually choose communities where there are no hospitals, right? So that.
Yeah.
Most likely. Yeah. Well, that's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, how many trips have you gone to? Have you? So you.
I did not make any of the trips during that time. My son was probably 4th, 5th grade during that time. So the only things I did were some trips for some training in situations where I was able to take my son with me, and those were here in the United States. But I did not do any of the mission trips that year.
But when you go, do you make sure that someone speaks the local language so that you can communicate with the patients?
Yes, yes. So in most cases, like in Nigeria, we have, you know, just a tremendous amount of contacts in Nigeria that live there. And same thing in Haiti. We had an individual who was, you know, a contact person, and he did a lot of the groundwork there. And then, you know.
So he did the translations, in other words, if you needed to communicate with the patients.
No, with the patients now, they probably had people there during the time that they were there. Since I didn't go on those trips, I'm not really sure exactly how they did that communication, but you know, they would have had somebody there to help them communicate with the patients.
Oh, I think that's very good.
Yeah.
So you do several trips a year. Nigeria, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti, and
that's what we did when I was there.
But it's usually the same team that goes from one to the other. So
no, it's different teams all the time.
Different teams that go.
Yeah, the Haiti team may not go to Nigeria at all, or there could be some overlap. You know, there could be some people that go to both of those.
So the website would be faithcare.org, right? And then could people then register to
yeah, they can just go online and they can find out all they need to know, or they can contact Vinton Forbes at the Faith Care office.
I see.
And get all the information. But yeah, I think everything, again, since I haven't been involved in the organization for a few years, I don't know exactly how it's all set up now, but they could probably do just about everything, register, you know, find out information and all of that online.
Now that you're going to be moving to Texas and you're going to leave us and we're going to miss you,
Thank you.
are there any organizations there that you are thinking about participating in or joining?
Well, this year I had the opportunity. My church goes to Honduras.
Okay.
And this was their third year. My pastor goes multiple times throughout the year, but this was the third year that he took a team over. And my son and I actually got to go this year in March. So right now, that's kind of my passion. I really want to be able to go back. I fell in love with the people that we worked with there. Our purpose there, this is not a medical team. Although we did have a team of nurses that went with us, and that was, they did just some screenings, and that was nice. But we take a construction team. We have our youth pastor goes, our children's minister goes. So we're kind of reaching out in the community to try to build community, a faith community in that area. So that's kind of our purpose for going there. So my heart's desire at this point is no matter where I am in the next few years, here in Connecticut or back in Texas, I hope to travel with that team on an ongoing basis to Honduras and minister to the people there, and then they minister to us as well. You know, I mean, going to other countries, we often think initially, we think, oh, we're going to go make a change. You know, we're going to go change some lives someplace else, when really what happens is we are the ones that get changed, and we're the ones that get blessed by the people that are there. So, yeah, there's some beautiful people in Honduras. So.
Now, let's talk about yourself now a little bit.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. I understand you're writing a book. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, I love to talk about this. It's in 2010, December of 2010, my dad passed away. And I was back in Texas with my brothers, and we had the funeral, and we had stored my dad's things in just a storage facility, and my brothers and one of my nephews and I went, and we were going through all my dad's stuff and looking at things and opening up suitcases, and his clothes were they were all pressed and neatly packed in the suitcase. His jeans were all pressed and neatly packed in the suitcase. But the thing that caught my eye was a boot bag, very pristine looking, nice looking boot bag that was kind of set over on a dresser. And so I grabbed it, and it had zippers on it, so I unzipped it, and I pulled out, one boot at a time, I pulled out just a solid pair of black dancing boots. Now, I knew these were dancing boots because my dad, in his later years, he had started country and western dancing. And he had never even liked country and western music that much.
Which is unusual, isn't it, since he lived in Texas?
Being in Texas, but he really, that wasn't his favorite. But he had kind of come across some senior citizens doing some line dancing.
Okay.
And he decided that he wanted to try that. So he did. He got into dancing, and after my mom passed away, after about a year, because it took him, a while to get past that, but he started going out dancing again, and he bought a pair of dancing boots, And these are they're cowboy boots, but they have a sole on the bottom that's almost like a suede, so that you can slide, and do the boot scoot and boogie on the dance floor. So anyway, I found his boots, and just for fun, I slipped my foot into it, and then I slipped my other foot in, and was quite surprised that his boots actually fit me. Now, none of his other boots, because he had other cowboy boots there, none of them fit me. They were all too big. But these boots fit me like a glove. And so I just said, I'm dancing in my daddy's boots. So when I came home and I was talking to my mother-in-law, and she said, that sounds like the title of a book.
And that is the title of the book.
That is the title of
It's called Dancing in My Father's Boots.
Dancing in My Daddy's Boots.
My daddy's boots.
And really, it's I was blessed to have a wonderful relationship with my dad. And we, just lots of fun memories, lots of fond memories of growing up, and just lessons learned from him. And as I started thinking about all that, and started thinking about how my relationship with my earthly father correlates in so many ways to my relationship with my Heavenly Father. And so that is the premise of the book, because my heart's desire is that people, and it's written probably mostly to women, although I hope that men will also pick it up and read it. But my heart's desire is for women, whether or not they had a good relationship with their earthly father, can discover and embrace the love of a Heavenly Father. Because that's a love that's going to last forever. And it's a love that's unconditional, and it's a love that's unfailing, and it's a love that is just going to go on and on and on. And I want people to be able to know that and to embrace it. So using lessons that I learned growing up, and even in my adult years, and then lessons learned from my relationship with God through the Bible and other sources, but primarily from the Bible, Scripture. I just want to help people to be able to discover and embrace that love of a father.
Yeah, and there's a parallel there, isn't it? Because you're wearing your father's boots.
Absolutely.
And in a sense, you stand on your father's boots in the same way that we also stand, in fact, on the Father's
That's right.
boots, God's boots as well. So it forms a kind of a foundation.
Exactly.
There's a theologian by the name of Paul Tillich, who taught for a very long time at Union Theological Seminary in New York. And he always referred to God as a ground of being. So this is very interesting that you talk about the boots, because the boots really form the very ground of your own being, as it were. And on the other hand, when you think about it, is that you're really standing on your father's boots, because he is the one really who passed on something. So you're carrying on the heritage, you're carrying on whatever he gave you, since your relationship, as you mentioned, was so good. So tell us a little bit about the details of the book. What specifically you're focusing on? You mean you're talking about your father's boots, but is there something else, other things that are also involved in that?
Well, I think one of the main things, because I really kind of talk about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And God wants us, and as a Christian, we have to surrender to God. And when you're dancing on the dance floor, especially as a woman dancing with a man on the dance floor in a partner dance, you have to surrender to that partner. And that's exactly what God wants us to do. He wants us to step up and surrender, and just move with Him, flow with Him. And I think about Jesus. One of the things, when Jesus was here on earth, and what we have, to go by in the Scriptures, he came to teach us, to show us, to teach us the steps. So that's my step in. So I've got step up in surrender, step in to Jesus and learn. Learn those basic steps, learn the advanced steps, get in that groove with Jesus and do what Jesus taught us to do when he walked on this earth. And then, when Jesus left, he said, I'm leaving, but I've asked the Father, and the Father is going to send a comforter, a paraclete, somebody to come beside you, somebody to be there to really guide you as you go through life. And so that's the Holy Spirit. So when we go out on the dance floor, so we might start out, we step up to the Father, we learn from Jesus, but then we need to step out and we need to take what we've learned and share that with others and teach others those steps. And we do that because the Holy Spirit is in us, lives in us, and works through us. So that's really what my three pieces within the book. And there's freedom in that. There's freedom in that dance. It's I think a lot of times people think a relationship with God is, they can't do anything. They're limited. They're kind of stuck. But that's so not true of God. He gives us so much freedom. But that freedom is within
certain bounds.
With his boundaries. Sure. It's just like a parent, that's raising a child. You have to teach your child what the boundaries are, and then you have to give them freedom. And
to be creative and
they're going to make mistakes, but that's part of it. As Christians, we're going to make mistakes, and God knows that. But He's right there to help pick us back up again and get us back on our feet in our dancing boots and get us back going again.
Of course, if you're dancing with a person, you sort of have to work together.
Yes.
So there's a harmony that has
Absolutely.
to be, and because each person, each partner, in fact, has to participate in the dance.
That's right.
In order to make it an aesthetic as well as a worthwhile kind of experience.
Yeah, otherwise it's just a mess.
Yeah. So it looks like you've really learned a lot by writing this book.
Yeah.
Now, do you also have to you've done some research about your father, and how do you go about doing that? From the things that you've found in the house after your father's passing, how do you reconstruct the stories based on what you find?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that what you find has brought back a lot of memories too from your childhood. Can you tell us a little bit of how you reconstruct, as it were, recreate some of these memories and some of the histories, and share with us a little bit of the sorts of things that have come back to you by looking at these objects?
Well, it was really kind of easy in a way. I'm not saying the whole writing part was easy, but the stories with my dad were easy, to come up with. It wasn't always necessarily an object, but there was always a lesson. And sometimes it wasn't even with me. There were some lessons that I have two brothers, both older than me. And so sometimes the lesson was something that happened with them. And then how my dad handled that and how they grew from how he handled it. And again, I correlate that with how God handles us, when we fail or when we do something wrong, and He's trying to guide us and He picks us back up again. So, the finding the stories really with my dad was just, it was fun. At times it was sad in a way, but then I always able to just bring that back around because, my dad loved life. He loved life, and he would. He was kind of a happy-go-lucky in a way, but not to the point of neglecting what he needed to get done. So,
Of all the things that you found, though, are there any memories or anything that you'd forgotten and suddenly you find an object that really brought back some experience that floored you, that moved you? Is there anything specific, so specific objects? I remember when when my mother died, there is one particular object, that I remember. I had forgotten about, in fact, and I remember stumbling across it. And once I did, then it clicked, and so many things came to me.
Triggered something.
So is there something that you've found that perhaps struck you more than anything else, do you think?
I can't think of anything right now. I can't think of anything in particular that that I came across. I guess the one thing is just when I would think about a certain thing is just remembering how he handled it, and how other people maybe handled the same situation. Like if if we did something that we knew we weren't supposed to do. Like I remember, we used to call it pumping on a bicycle, like where you would get on either the handlebars when somebody else was riding the bike, and you would be on the handlebars, or if there was a fender, you would be on the back. And we weren't supposed to do that. And I knew that, but I did it one day, and one of my brothers saw me, and I think he told my parents. And so we were little. And so I got home, and I just went to my room and started crying because I thought, I'm in trouble.
Right. Sure.
Because my brother told my dad that I was being pumped on a bicycle. And I remember my mom and dad both came in, and we sat down. They were saying, what's wrong? What's going on? And I told them what I did and how sorry I was, but they just calmly talked to me and, helped me work through that, and, helped me to know that, the important thing was that I realized that they were doing that for my safety, and that they didn't want me to do that because it wasn't safe, and that, that I was going to be okay. So, but just different situations and seeing how my parents handled those situations without, being angry, and, we didn't get spankings, and I'm not saying I'm totally against that, but I'm just saying we didn't. My parents didn't really spank. Now, I don't know that they didn't spank my brothers. They might have, but I do remember one time my mom swatting me because I was throwing a temper tantrum. I do remember that, but in general, that was not, we didn't get beatings. I mean, I hear about people that, got beatings when they were children for doing something like I did, being pumped on a bicycle when I wasn't supposed to. So just that kind of thing. I think the loving way that my parents disciplined was probably one of the things that just really came through when I was going through and remembering not only things that I did growing up, but things that my brothers might have done, and any minor kinds of trouble that we might have gotten into.
Yeah, well, we all get into trouble as children,
That's right.
So it's one of those things that happens.
That's right.
But very often, parents will try to tell us that there are some things that we are not supposed to do, and we don't understand why that's the case, isn't it?
That's right.
And then obviously it's for our own safety very often that we do that.
Yeah.
But tell us about your mother as well.
Yeah.
What memories do you have of your mother? Or have you found anything at all in the things that were there that you discovered about your father that also triggered something about your mother?
Yeah.
Anything specific?
Well, my mom loved music. She did like to dance. She and my dad did a little bit of dancing before she passed away, but mostly she would just let him go and kind of do his own thing there.
I see.
Toward the.
Now, you say your mother and father probably danced a lot, and they must have danced what, line dancing?
They didn't, because this started when my dad was probably in his early 70s.
Oh.
When he started doing this line dancing thing, because he was He was maybe around 70, 71. And like I said, my mom did a little bit with him. She may have gone with him a few times dancing, but then she passed away when she was 72 and he was 74 when my mom passed away. So, so they didn't do a lot of that together. And then he did, a year or so after she passed away, he met a woman and they loved to go dancing together. So they did that until he had a stroke and wasn't able to do that anymore. But
So your mother didn't have to have dancing boots then?
that's right.
Yeah, so the dancing boots were only your father's?
Only my
then.
father's,
Then-
yeah.
Well, that was very good of her to just give him his freedom to just
Yeah.
go ahead and do this.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, and it wasn't, there wasn't a long stretch of time that went on, but
Right.
yeah.
Now, will you be doing line dancing now that you have the father's boots? You can wear them
Yeah.
to do line dancing.
I love it. My husband and I both enjoy dancing. We haven't, when we were first dating, we did go dancing a little bit, country and western dance, because we still lived in Texas at that time. But we haven't, since we've been up here in Connecticut, we haven't been dancing. Now, we've danced a little in our living room,
Yeah.
but we haven't been dancing. But we've talked about it. We know that when we go back, we want to find a good a dance place to do some country and western dancing.
Are there places here in Connecticut? Are there organizations that do dancing, line dancing in particular in Connecticut?
I think
Do you know?
there are,
There must be.
but I haven't been to them. It's my mother-in-law lives with us, and then I have a son who's just now graduating from high school. So so my life has been in a really different place, and going out dancing is a luxury that we just haven't taken advantage of since we've been here. But I'm sure there are. I
Oh, I'm
think there was a
sure,
place
yeah.
in Southington even maybe that there was a dance hall there, but I've never been. And I know some people that have taken like more ballroom style dancing and doing that kind of thing. And I know there are places like that around, but it's kind of funny. I've been almost away from that dance scene for a long time.
My wife and I have a friend in Vermont, in Burlington, and he does line dancing.
Yeah.
But he seems to be traveling an awful lot. I don't know where he goes, but
To line dance?
yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
maybe I should ask him, where he goes, and
Yeah.
pass that information on to you.
Well, there
But he
are a
travels a
lot
lot.
of competitions.
Yes, he
for
participates. I know he.
Yeah. And not just line dancing, but the East Coast swing, the two-step,
Right.
waltz, polka, just all kinds of the country and western music dance. So,
Right.
yeah.
But
there's-
apparently, a lot of these people who do these dancing, the dancers, they travel around a lot from state to state,
Probably
from town
so.
to town.
Yeah.
So they must have some connections with your various organizations, and the various dances are going to take place at certain
Right.
times and
Right,
certain
I'm
dates,
sure.
and they travel back and forth.
Yeah.
But now that you're going back to Texas,
Yeah.
you're probably going to find you're going to have occasion to wear your father's
Lots.
boots.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yes. I don't just line dance. I mean, I love all the different kinds of dances to country and western music. And I grew up in a small town in Texas, and one of the things that we did on Saturday nights was go into the local VFW hall.
Oh, yes.
Or one or two other locations where we had a high school friend and his brothers and a couple of other people had a band, and we'd go listen to them and dance all till the place closed down, pretty much. So that was pretty much every Friday and Saturday night growing up. So I did a lot of that, and then, like I said, as got older and got different responsibilities, a lot of those things changed. But definitely when we go back to Texas, we're,
Right.
in fact, I went to school at Texas A&M, and so the college town there is College Station, and then the adjoining town is Bryan, so Bryan College Station area.
Oh, yes.
And I've already asked, I have a girlfriend who was one of my roommates at A&M, and asked her if she knew what places were around, and she said, oh yeah, that she and her husband had already, they had found a place there. to
That's
go
very
country
good.
western dancing. So,
Yeah.
so
Well,
yeah,
that's one
so
of the
I'm
things
ready.
about line dancing. It's not wild dancing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Line dancing's a lot of fun. In fact, we went to a wedding back in February, and we did a little bit of line dancing
Really?
there. So
Yeah, here in
Yeah.
Connecticut?
it was in Connecticut. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Now, tell us a little bit about your leadership. You've done some leadership functions in the church.
Through my church. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, primarily, one of my passions is just women and girls,
Okay.
and helping them to grow in their relationship with God. And my pastor's wife, Kathy, who's also a very dear friend of mine, is the women's ministry leader, and so another. One of the ladies in the church and I kind of co-lead with her. So it's just been a real joy to do that. And so we have a Bible study for women on Wednesday mornings, and then we try to do other things. We try to have either a 1 or 2 day retreat once or twice a year, and try to bring those women together to do different things throughout the year, to celebrate them or to do Bible studies or whatever.
Now, do you work with young girls then? How young are they?
Mostly. Well, I kind of work with all ages. I mean, I work in the nursery sometimes,
okay.
but mostly my passion really is more the older girls. And
Okay.
so our youth starts at 6th grade, so it goes 6th grade through 12th grade. So for a little while, I was working with the girls on Sunday mornings, but then we kind of changed the structure a little bit, so I'm no longer doing that. But that age group, the young adults, I'm not actually formally working with them at the church, but I love them and love to love on them, and then just the women in general. So anything that has to do with the women in the church, I try to get involved with that. And then my husband teaches like a Sunday morning class, and then we also have a Bible study with a small group of people. And so I kind of co-lead with him. So if he's not available, then I'll step up and teach or facilitate the class.
Yeah.
So.
Paula, it sounds like you're very passionate in everything you do. There's a part of the Bible where in the book of Ecclesiastes where it says, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. And, this is what I think about when I see you and I hear you talk about what you're doing. So are you going to miss us? Or are you going to miss what you're doing? What will you miss the most?
Well, I definitely, we love Connecticut. We moved here.
I was going to ask you about
2005.
Yeah.
My son was 5 years old. Our son was 5 years old at the time. We came up because of my husband's work, and he works for a great company that's out of Kansas City, but they have a big office here now in Connecticut. We thought we were going to be here 3 or 4 years, but one job led to another job, and so we're still here, and it's a beautiful state. Connecticut is. We've loved just exploring and seeing the state and the surrounding areas. We've really enjoyed it. But yeah, I mean, we will miss it. But Texas for me is still home, and my, probably heard the saying, you can take a girl out of Texas, but you can't take Texas out of the girl.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's
well, the reverse is also true for people from Connecticut
I'm sure.
who go to Texas. Right?
I'm sure.
So.
Yeah. Well, Facebook. I've been on Facebook for a while, and for somehow Facebook knows. They look at, I guess, whatever information you put in there. So I found this T-shirt that popped up on my screen one day that says, planted in Connecticut with roots in Texas.
Huh.
And I bought it because I love that shirt because, that's the way, and that's the way I feel. And, there's a quote that says, bloom where you're planted. So I've tried no matter, even though my heart is in Texas, I've tried to bloom here. It's a beautiful place, beautiful people. I've just, I've loved getting to know people here, and that's going to be hard. It's going to be tough to leave that. My son, like I said, he grew up here. He was 5 when we moved here. So for him, going back to Texas will be tough. Of course, he can make that choice.
Right, but then you'll also be traveling back and forth because you'll be back to Connecticut, I'm sure. And if you do, you're going to tell us when you're back.
That's right.
You know, so that we could visit.
Texas, especially in the southern part of Texas, summers are hot.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So my goal is to come back up here at least for the summer, and maybe even like May through September timeframe or something. So potentially we could spend 3, 4, 5 months out of the year here in Connecticut and Texas the rest of the time. My husband will probably still be working, at least a little bit. So, So.
Well, we're going to miss you.
Well, thank you.
And you've done this program now for about a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yep. So we're going to miss you very much, and you've done it so eloquently and so well.
I appreciate that.
So.
It's been a pleasure and a joy.
Thank you for all that you've done.
You're welcome.
So, I have just interviewed Paula Sorrells-Beene, who's been the host of this program for a year and a half. And we're glad that we had this opportunity to interview you, which is quite a change. Reversing the table, because usually you interview us, and now we have the chance to do likewise for you. So, and for you, we encourage you very much to embrace the world, embrace the organizations that you would like to work with in the community, and to make a difference in people's lives. I'm Leslie DeMond, and I hope to see you soon.